The opening scene of Avengers Doomsday might be Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man fighting the entire Fox X-Men lineup to save his world, and according to the leaks, he doesn't just lose the fight, he loses everything. If that sounds insane, stay with me because this theory stands on 3 legs. One shot from the official Avengers Doomsday trailer, one comic book rule that Marvel has been quietly planting for years, and a chain of leaks so consistent that even people who normally ignore spoilers are starting to believe them. Put those 3 together and you get the darkest possible way to open a Marvel movie. The most beloved live-action Spider-Man completely alone, standing between a superhero strike team and the death of everyone he has ever known. So today we're breaking down the theory that Tobey Maguire's universe is the first casualty of Avengers Doomsday, why the X-Men of all people would be the ones holding the knife, and why this might end up being the greatest last stand ever put on screen. The very first thing the Avengers Doomsday trailer shows you might already be a universe dying. The trailer opens with Professor Charles Xavier standing at a window of the X-Mansion, staring up at a massive, blinding cataclysm in the sky. The shot is deliberately blurry, but it looks like an entire planet hanging up there on a collision course with his world. Easy to dismiss as apocalypse wallpaper until you notice what the rest of the trailer quietly confirms. Later shots show the X-Mansion wrecked, the gates damaged, the school sign broken. The X-Men's world has clearly been falling apart for a while, long before the main story even begins. Then there's the scene in the hero's watchtower, where the monitors in the background show what looks like 3 worlds drifting toward each other. The MCU's Earth, the Fantastic Four's Earth, and the X-Men's Earth. And stitched over all of it is Doctor Doom's narration about facing an unthinkable decision before the day is done. On its own, that Xavier shot is just a dramatic opening image. Combined with everything else, it might be the single most important frame in the trailer. An old man watching another universe burn so that his own can keep breathing. To understand why anyone would destroy an entire universe on purpose, you only need one word: incursion. An incursion is what happens when 2 universes crash into each other, and the rules are brutally simple. If the collision happens, both universes die. There's exactly one loophole, and it's horrible. If you destroy the other Earth first before the crash, your universe survives. Kill a world to save your own. The MCU already did its homework on this years ago, because Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness had the Illuminati's Reed Richards explain incursions on screen, and the multiverse has been cracking ever since. But the comics show how dark this idea really gets. In the storyline that led into Secret Wars, Marvel's smartest and noblest heroes, people like Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther, secretly built weapons capable of killing entire Earths. And when the moment finally came to use one, they hesitated. They couldn't do it. It was Namor who pushed the button and wiped out an inhabited world, while the heroes stood there frozen. That's the lesson baked into this whole saga. Good people end up doing monstrous things, and the monstrous things work. Remember that rule, because it's the entire engine of this theory. By the way, if you enjoy breakdowns and theories like these, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel. Anyways, the leak that started all of this comes from one of the most well-known Marvel insiders out there. According to My Time to Shine Hello, Wolverine and Deadpool get sent to Tobey Maguire's Earth with exactly one job: destroy it before an incursion takes both worlds down. The opening scene of Avengers Doomsday reportedly shows Tobey's Spider-Man fighting the entire Fox X-Men lineup, with the battle zeroing in on Spider-Man versus Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, while their 2 Earths are literally closing in on each other in the sky above them. Then a much more detailed plot leak spread through Reddit, and well-known film commentators like John Campea treated it as credible. In that version, the weapon is a planet-killing bomb built by Beast. Wolverine plants the device, stays behind when it detonates, and dies together with Tobey's Spider-Man and every living soul on that Earth. Deadpool escapes at the last second and returns home, and Charles Xavier watches that world die from a distance. Read that again, because if it's true, the first shot of the Avengers Doomsday trailer isn't some random apocalypse tease. It's literally Xavier watching Tobey Maguire's universe die. Now the honest part, none of this is confirmed. Marvel hasn't officially announced Maguire or Jackman for the movie, and leaks stay leaks until the lights go down. But when a months-old rumor and a brand new trailer line up this cleanly, you understand why this one refuses to die. Now for the question every skeptic immediately asks, does that trailer shot actually show Tobey's world, or are fans just seeing what they want to see? Fair challenge, because the trailer never labels the dying planet. Nothing on screen says this is the Raimi universe, and technically Charles Xavier could be watching any world burn, including including one we've never visited. The Doomsday multiverse is enormous, and Marvel could easily sacrifice some nameless reality for shock value. But two things keep pulling this theory back to Tobey Maguire. First, the timing. The leak about Wolverine and Deadpool being sent to destroy Maguire's Earth existed long before this trailer ever came out. And then the trailer opened with exactly the image, the detailed version of that leak predicted. An X-Man watching a foreign world die while it drifts toward his own. Predictions that come true before our eyes are how rumors earned credibility. Second, the storytelling math. Destroying a universe the audience has never met costs nothing and means nothing. If Avengers Doomsday wants its opening to actually hurt, the world on the other side of that window has to be one we already love. And there is no destroyed universe in this entire franchise that would hurt more than the one where the modern era of Spider-Man movies began. The scariest part of this theory has nothing to do with the fight itself. It's the reason behind it. According to the leaks, these X-Men have survived countless incursions, and every single one forced them to invade another Earth, fight the heroes defending it, and wipe that universe out before it wiped out theirs. They are exhausted, broken, and they trust absolutely no one because in their experience, anyone arriving from another universe has come to kill them. That instantly explains the strangest parts of the trailer. It explains why their world already looks ruined, and it explains why, reportedly, when the Avengers and the Fantastic Four show up in the X-Men's universe just to warn them about Dr. Doom's plan, the X-Men skip the conversation and attack, which matches the trailer showing Gambit trading blows with Shang-Chi and Yelena squaring off against what looks like Mystique inside the mansion. The leak even describes Xavier watching that destroyed world with sadness because they had no choice. That's the tragedy of this whole setup. The X-Men aren't being written as villains here. They're survivors who have done the unthinkable so many times that it became routine. In the comics, Marvel's greatest heroes froze before crossing that line. These X-Men stopped freezing years ago. Now picture the other side of that fight, because this is exactly why the scene would emotionally wreck an entire generation. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is for millions of people the definitive version of the character. The gentle one, the one who pulled his punches, forgave his enemies, and treated saving people as more important than winning. And his world is uniquely defenseless because as far as 3 movies ever showed us, his Earth has no Avengers, no Fantastic Four, no mutants, no backup of any kind. One man in a homemade suit is that universe's entire line of defense. One version of the leak even adds a detail that hits like a truck. Dr. Octopus fighting at Spider-Man's side, Otto Octavius, the man who once chose to drown with his own machine to save the city, standing next to Peter at the end of the world. That's the image people mean when they call this the greatest last stand in fiction. A hero who cannot possibly win, who knows he cannot win, and who swings into the fight anyway because protecting people is simply what Spider-Man does, even when nobody is coming to help him do it. If Marvel films that with the respect it deserves, we're talking about an all-time opening scene, not just a cameo. It does get messy though, because the leakers themselves are openly fighting about how this ends. One camp says the outcome is final. Tobey's Spider-Man and Wolverine both die at the very beginning of Avengers Doomsday, and a separate livestream report went the same direction, claiming the Fox X-Men destroy Maguire's Spider-Man for good. Then Alex Perez of the Cosmic Circus stepped in and directly disputed it, stating that Maguire's Spider-Man does not die in the film. When insiders agree on the setup but go to war over the ending, that usually tells you two things. The scene exists in some form, and the outcome is either heavily protected or got changed along the way. And the comics quietly offer a third option that splits the difference. In the Secret Wars comic, dying with your universe wasn't actually the end because the broken pieces of dead worlds got stitched together into Battle World, and characters walked right out of their own funerals. Add the long-running rumors that all 3 live-action Spider-Men are wanted for Avengers, Secret Wars, and suddenly Tobey dying in the opening of Doomsday stops looking like a farewell. It starts looking like the setup for the biggest resurrection of the entire saga. Destroying the Raimi universe on screen sounds like the one thing Marvel would never dare to do, and that's exactly why it would work. Those 3 movies are sacred to fans, which makes that world the single most valuable thing Marvel could sacrifice. Think about why the ending of Infinity War hit so hard. The snap worked because Marvel proved in front of everyone that it was actually willing to go through with the unthinkable. Audiences stopped feeling safe, and the story instantly mattered more. Avengers Doomsday needs its own version of that gut punch, and it needs it early, because a movie about universe-killing choices means nothing if only throwaway universes get killed. To make incursions feel real, you have to burn something the audience genuinely loves. The honest risk sits right next to that logic, and it's a big one. If Tobey's world gets vaporized as a cheap cold open shock, with his Spider-Man reduced to a 30-second cameo corpse, the backlash would be nuclear, and critics of this leak have said exactly that. This only works if his stand gets treated as a real story with real weight. High risk, highest possible reward, and the noise around the film keeps pointing the same way. Because John Campea, one of the commentators who treated the big plot leak as credible, separately claimed that the opening scene is something he didn't believe the Russo brothers were even capable of pulling off. Nobody reacts like that to a disposable scene. Everything about Doomsday so far suggests Marvel knows exactly what it's holding. So let's put the pieces on the table one last time. A trailer that opens with Xavier watching a world die. A comic book blueprint where surviving means murdering another Earth, and a chain of leaks all pointing at the same victim. The universe of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. My honest read is this: I think the fight is real, I think his world dies, and I don't think his story ends there. Because Avengers Secret Wars is sitting right behind Doomsday like a resurrection machine with his name already on the list. Whether he lives or falls, those opening minutes could redefine what the MCU is allowed to do to the things we love. But now I want to hear from you. Would you accept Marvel destroying the Raimi universe even if it gives us the greatest last stand ever filmed? Drop your take in the comments, and if you made it this far, subscribing would mean a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.